Hello pilot, welcome to the part 2 of 737-800 Jeju Air crash analysis study. In the part 1, thank you so much, you gave me a lot of feedback, and in the part 1 we discussed about the profile of ADS-B, the gear up landings, and the possible bird strike and engine failure, the CRM, but we never talked about why the airplane turned back for runway 19er. Because I don't have the data, as you know, the ADS-B is disabled just prior to landing. It's about like 500 feet. And in part 2, we're gonna update why the ADS-B is missing and why the airplane need to make impossible turn to runway 19er. Is there any possibility that the airplane has a problem with both engines at the same time? Because a lot of people start talking about possibility that the pilot shut down the wrong engine because we don't have any data. And then finally, they retrieve the flight data recorder and the CVR, cockpit voice recorder, which is what we call the black box. In this part 2, we're gonna talk more about the runway 19er and what really happened in that situation. And then I will go a little deeper on the systems that will lead into the evidence that we have based on the footage and the photos. But remember, this is only the early analysis study. It's not a conclusion of the NTSC. I will have the disclaimer that I need to read it to you. So use this video as a discussions with the main goal. We learn from any accident or incidents to make sure that we're gonna be a safer and better pilot. Well, let's get started. Send your feedback and comment. This probably not become a perfect video. I may made a mistake, but let's learn together and get benefit and become a better pilot. Okay guys, let's start with the second part of Jeju Air crash analysis study. So this part will be a mystery of runway 19 plus ADS-B missing. In the part 1, we talk more about the CRM, then the gear up landing, the checklist, approach, and we're not specifically talk about why the airplane have to do impossible turn and then come back to land in runway 19, and why the ADS-B missing at a 500 feet AGL. So this analysis probably will help you to understand and we can learn together, okay? And I expect your feedback and some more informations because we want to set a goal, and the goal will be all of us gonna learn how to promote a better aviation ecosystem in the future and also a safer flight experience for you and me, and then we learn from any accident or incident that happened. Well, make sure that we agree on disclaimer that this video is not an official investigation by the NTSB or NTSC. It provides early analysis based on available data that we can have easily from the social media or from the ADS-B or from any other resources. Please await for official report for accurate conclusions. And again, the goal of this video is to promote better decision making, situational awareness, and safety in aviation. So this is the update from Jeju Air crash analysis part 1. You can go to 14-Day Pilot YouTube and then find this video. It's not perfect, but we already put some pinned comment, okay, based on your feedback, and that's why we create another videos that will update from our first. So number 1, why the airplane make an impossible 180-degree turn to land on runway 19? And previously we don't have any reference because the ADS-B is off, but now I think the Korea NTSC, they already provide some beautiful graph here to show that the 737 make the impossible turn from runway 01 to runway 19. Right? The second question will be, why was the ADS-B missing at 500 feet AGL? If you see the flight radar here and then you put the icon of the airplane all the way to the right, you will see that the lowest altitude was 500 feet and then it's disappeared, okay? We cannot see whether the airplane made a go round and then go to turn back for landing. There's no data on it. The only way to get the data is from the flight data recorder from the black box, that's already retrieved by the NTSC. Why weren't there no flaps, landing gear, or thrust reverser? Again, we're gonna talk about this and we will go a little bit more into the systems of 737, okay? So I'm really thankful to this guy that give us a heads up. There's a new video shared by Korean media that's showing landing gear down in the first attempt. Wow. So this is a big game changer for me. If you can see here, I can see a little black dot here. It's probably a landing gear from the nose. It's what we call the nose landing gear. But I try to play around with the contrast and shadow. I cannot see the main landing gear here, probably just too dark. But if you can see here, it's probably, this is true. This is the first attempt, which is we expect. If you see the flight radar, they're using the normal approach for ILS runway 1, and suddenly it has a bird strike. So we're gonna start from this point on this second video, okay? So if you remember this, which come first on the part 1, so I modified it a little bit, which come first, then now we confirm probably the bird strike came first, okay? Why? Because we can see if this is real and correct and accurate, so it means the airplane was in the normal approach to land, and suddenly there was a bird strike, and you can see the exhaust here is like the compressor stall. You can see the indication from the right engine, and I believe there's no mirror, or because of the vertical shoot from the phone, I don't think that's happened here, okay? So I believe this is like a normal view, like people took the videos using the phone with the back camera, so there will be no mirroring. That's what I believe, okay? So that will be possible engine failure on the right side. Then another engine failure on the left side. This will be more interesting to discuss, and I'm really scared if this happened for real, okay? And then following by the belly landing. The question is why? So this is the ILS Zulu. I expect they shoot the ILS Zulu or Yankee, doesn't matter. This is runway 01 in Muan, Korea. So they're coming from runway 01 from south to the north, and landing gear is down here, and I see the flaps is down here. It's very clear that the flaps is down. There's like a bulky area over here, but this part is too dark whether this is a landing gear or not, okay? Let's assume this normal approach on the ILS 01. Then we got an engine failure because of the bird. So we started from there. But the question is why Jeju took the runway 19. So this is the instrument approach, and probably they got an engine failure here, as I described in the part 1, because they're not flying straight. Instead, it's moving like this, okay? So it's possibly they already had flying the airplane. The vertical speed is pretty massive here with altitude 800 feet. We already discussed in the part 1. And now this is runway 1. They supposedly go from here. Instead, they took a go run because of the bird strike. And then based on the explanation from the regulator, this is what they did, okay? They come back here, making 180. So probably not like the downwind like this, probably is over a runway and then turn like this, okay? We need to see the real flight path though. I cannot just say whether it's taking the left side, like circle to land, go to the downwind and turn right, or fly over the runway and then make a teardrop. Based on what they have here, it looks like they make a teardrop here, right? Here. So it's not like completely like a downwind. We can see this is the runway 19, right? That's what we call the airport diagram for everybody that not really familiar with it. Now, if they make the teardrop like this is what we call an impossible turn. Okay, everybody learned that in the flying school that it's not recommended if you got an engine failure after takeoff below 1,000 feet AGL. Probably you're not gonna make it for like making 180 back to the other opposite runway. So in this case, we'll see there was no flaps, because when the 737 made a go round, they need to put the gear up and then flaps up. We call that a cleanup maneuvers, okay? And there's no gear. That's the question. Why? And this is the picture, right? This is very clear. Let's go to teardrop, make an impossible turn, and this is the new data for us. Now, there's a probable scenarios, at least the most reasonable for now. Number 1 is another bird strike on the other engine, which is left, or the crew shut down the other operative engine, which is a lot of experts already discussed about it. But I'm not gonna talk about whether it's true or not. That's not my job. That's a job of the NTSC to find out, right? But at least if that situation happened this time, it wasn't the first time. It's British Midland Flight 92, which is shut down the wrong engine during the engine failure, and finally crashed just about like, I think a mile or half a mile from the threshold. Too bad, right? Now, the evidence, okay? That's the impossible turn. That's one of the biggest evidence that probably, again, the airplane experienced a loss of thrust on both engine, which is there is a procedures from the Boeing how to handle this situation. But if you lose the engine less than 1,000 or less than 2,000 feet, probably you're not going to make it to relight the engine or to turn on the engine back, you see. And then naturally, when people lose the engine like this and your big airplane, probably most likely naturally you're gonna think like, okay, let's come back and land, even if you have to land in a taxiway maybe, right? Because this is how normally in the small G airplane you're gonna do the impossible turn, and you need practice to do this, okay? So this evidence number one for the loss of thrust on both engine. Again, naturally, if you don't have the engine, the best bet is Sully choose the water, and probably this pilot thinks, okay, let's go back. If Sully that time, you know the story of Sully, right? If Sully that time choose the other airport, LaGuardia or any airport, probably they're gonna crash as well. But the instinct of the pilot made that different. So in this case, the Jeju Air, I believe, if they happen to lose their boat engine, they're probably gonna choose, okay, let's go back and see, okay? But the problem now, what happened if you have the loss of thrust on both engine, or let's say you got an engine failure, number one, you get a loss of AC electricity. If APU is not available or not started because the altitude is too low and panic was there, everybody panicked. The PM didn't do the job as the PM, and the PF may be too busy with the flight, so the CRM is another problem. So in this case, if the APU is not started, then only battery and standby power, okay? Then the number two is the loss of hydraulic systems. And I got the table here, the detailed equipment lost or degraded. Let's see, if you lose both engine, you're gonna lose the AC generator, no AC power, and only APU or battery limited. So we don't use the APU because probably panic, or they don't have time to start the APU because the altitude is too low and busy with the single engine, okay? And the hydraulic, no hydraulic pressure from both system A and B. So we're gonna talk about this. Then the other part is the landing gear, normal extension unavailable, so you have to drop the gear manually. The thrust reverse, not deployable unless on standby hydraulic. And if you go to standby hydraulic, there will be a partial thrust reverser. Now it's becoming to make sense, okay? Based on these conditions, we know for sure the autopilot A and B disengage as well. So his hand flying is required. That's why they have to hand flying the airplane. Like in the part one, I found that the pad is not straight, because if you got an engine failure, you can still fly with the autopilot. But if you lose the electricity and you lose the hydraulic, the autopilot must be turned off, and you only have the standby yaw damper. So we're gonna talk about this: the AC generator, hydraulic, and then the landing gear problem and thrust reverser. Autopilot off, of course, because you see the airplane is not moving straight and laterally. Now, when you lose the electrical systems without engine-driven generators, most electrical power is lost, and the aircraft is relies on the standby power from the battery or APU if you turn it on. But in this case, if you don't have the APU, then we got an inverter to convert the DC from the battery into AC systems, right? But of course, there's a load shedding. The kVA is very small on the battery, so you cannot use the battery inverter to supply the whole AC power. There will be a load shedding. The airplane system, the auto logic will choose which instrument or which equipment is really need to be powered, okay? And then you're gonna lose the engine-driven generators. You're gonna lose TRUs, main AC buses, DC buses, and transformer rectifier unit. That fat DC system is also gone. So in this case, you lose the major point of electrical system. That's why that's gonna lead into the ADS-B. So hang in there. Now, what equipment and system that lost, which is direct impact? There's a system here, which is thrust reverser and autopilot, unavailable during landing, but autopilot channels require AC power. So this is what happened. If you lost thrust both engine, you lose the total electricity, you're gonna lose the autopilot and thrust reversers. Now, what kind of systems that available with the standby power from the battery? That's what you have, all right? This is not related with our case, so I'm gonna skip it. It's just nice to know for you. Hydraulic, there are three hydraulic, A, B, and standby. So if you lose the engine, both engine, now you're gonna lose EDP, engine-driven pump. In a part one, I explained about we still have the electric motor-driven pump. But now, if you lose the electricity and also you lose the hydraulics, what's gonna happen? Everything is gone. So probably you're gonna have the manual reverse in here. It's very heavy. It's really, really heavy, right? The primary flight control is loose, and remember, the leading edge, the slat and flaps. So this relates to the situation why there is no flaps. If you lose the hydraulics, the only way to put the flaps down, it's using the standby hydraulic system with the alternate flaps. Alternate electric flaps, I'm gonna show you in the next slide, okay? And again, the landing gear, you need to do manual gear extension. So this affected, landing gear is affected, and autopilot unavailable, okay? And thrust reverser isolation valve, standby hydraulic power can partially deploy thrust, partially, okay, but only in specific condition. What is specific condition? If I'm not mistaken, okay, so maybe you know more than me. You need to have the landing gear down, and the ground sensor must sense the airplane on the ground if you want the standby hydraulic to apply the thrust reverser. And the manual gear extension, you need to do it through gravity drop with no hydraulic assist. So this what happened if you lose both hydraulic engine driven pump, and because you lose the electrical system, you're going to lose electric motor driven pump. So the next evidence is no gear. That's a problem, right? Again, manual gear extension takes time, and the airplane possible in loss of thrust condition on both engine at low altitude, so no time to bring the landing gear down. This makes sense now, right? The flaps not down after cleanup or go run. Again, if you see here, this is the image from the part 1. There's no flaps here, right? So with both hydraulic loss, the only way to extend the flaps is using the alternate flaps, which is here in the overhead panel. So when you open the rat cap here and you put it on an arm, you're activating the standby hydraulic, and also you're activating the up-down switch over here, okay? So in this case, it takes forever. It's very, very long time to operate all of this. So they will not have time if they lose both engine. They just need to come back and land as soon as possible. Airplane at low altitude, no time to execute the flaps. So that's the only way to say in this scenario. No thrust reverser, hydraulic and electrical dependencies, that's a problem here. The thrust reverser rely on hydraulic power from system A for the left engine and system B for the thrust reverser number 2 or the right engine to operate. A dual engine failure would result in loss of normal hydraulic pressures, which is, we know actually, there's 3 conditions that the radio altimeter must sense that the airplane in a 10 feet AGL or below, then you can activate the thrust reverse, right? But no power yet. And the second one, or in the Boeing, the FCOM say, or the landing gear must sense that the airplane is on the ground, which is that the flight to ground mode. But in this case, it's different. In the belly landing, with the engine inoperative and gear up. So this situation is different. You got a belly landing, which is no gear, and engine is inoperative, okay, gear up. The hydraulic pressure is likely compromised, further preventing thrust reverser deployment. That's the possibility could happen. Number 3, the standby hydraulic system can activate thrust reversers, but only if the correct conditions are met. Again, the gear down and the ground sense. That's why, if you see in the left engine, the reverse not deploy. But why this is open? Probably this because of the bird strike. I don't know. This is like the coaling broken or crack or anything. Is like, or maybe this is a partial. It's like, you know, using the standby hydraulic. If you put both thrust reverse, maybe one cascade open, or this because of the bird. But basically, I'm not really sure whether the thrust reverse works when the belly landing condition, and again, if the loss of thrust or lost engine, both engine happening. Now, no ADS-B. The ADS-B works in 737-800 on the 3 things here. Relies on the transponder, and the transponder requires AC electrical power from the AC transfer bus, okay? So from the generator, let's say this is the engine, the generator from the IDG is come to the AC transfer bus. So this is the main bus of the Boeing. So when you lose the engine, you're gonna lose the generator 1 and generator 2 if you lose both engine, okay? If you lose one engine on the left, you're gonna lose the generator number 1, which is the AC transfer bus 1 is also gone. But they have the bus tie contactor that can give you another AC electricity from the right engine. But if you lose both engine, then you lose everything, okay? The problem now, the ADS-B antenna and associated avionics are powered by main electrical buses, AC or DC, not the standby or battery bus. So if you lose AC systems, there will be a load shedding because the battery will use the inverter to supply the AC system to the required or very crucial or critical avionics, but not the HB. So you cannot use the HB with the inverter systems. That's why, based on the system logic, if the scenario of loss of both engines happening, we understand the possible reason why the HB stops transmitting after 500 feet AGL. So, refined storyline. This is what I believe. Then we just need to wait until the final investigation result comes. Then we're gonna do comparison, and hopefully we can learn a lot from here. So normal approach, ILS runway 01, got a bird strike, engine to fail, then go run and clean up. For the second segment again, go higher altitude, but probably they found that the airplane cannot go higher. For some reason, the performance doesn't meet the criteria or something, right? Then another bird strike or shut down wrong engine. That could happen, and on the NTSC will know. No time to troubleshoot, then make impossible turn and landing on runway 19er. So this is the most likely the storyline that happened. What we need to know based on the FDR and CVR, the left engine status. I want to know whether the airplane lose both engine. If the left fail, what's the cost? Is that another bird strike or shut down the wrong engine? And what happened with the cockpit crew CRM? We want to know whether they really did a good job as a PF and the PM, because the landing was good though, the flare is excellent, right? It's just a matter of they hit something there, which is here, airport design as a contributing factor, which is the last. But after the cockpit crew CRM, we're going to talk about the fail system related to the flight control, flaps, and landing gear. What kind of system that fail, whether or not the predictions or the analysis that we made is correct, right? And the highest altitude speed and performance before landing. What is the highest altitude and how many minutes they have to come back to the runway? And finally, since they already land basically, if there's no wall, right? They're probably going to survive. So the airport design as contributing factor. So I guess this is the summary, and we're going to wait for the next, I think, 25 days until we get the preliminary report from the NTSC. So this is what we need to know based on the FDR and CVR. Again, our deepest condolences for Jeju Air, and I hope we can learn together. And please send more data, and then we discuss, and hopefully this video is useful. Share it to the other friends. Thank you so much, and see you next time. There are unanswered mysteries. First, if both engines lose power or fail, would we still hear the roar of the engine as the airplane rolls down the runway? I believe the sound would still be there, but significantly quieter compared to when at least one engine is running. Secondly, if the airplane transponder isn't connected to the standby power, which based on my research is an optional feature, the transponder may be wired to AC standby bus or another standby power source. If this caused the disappearance of the HB data, it could indicate that both generators failed without the APU being activated. The only other possibility is that flight radar intentionally removed the HB data for this flight. Third, if the airplane experienced only a partial power loss after climbing past 500 feet AGL, the generator should have continued supplying electricity to the transponder, meaning the signal wouldn't have disappeared. If a total power loss occurred during the short final, a 180-degree impossible turn for the Boeing 737 would be nearly impossible. A lot happened during those critical 10 minutes following the bird strike, and NTSC will uncover the major probable cause. One thing we do know, the Boeing 737-800 is fully capable of flying with one engine. A bird strike alone shouldn't have led to a crash. In fact, the aircraft still landed though, unfortunately, it collided with the wall. At this point, the most reasonable explanation seems to be a dual engine failure supported by the fact that the plane landed without its landing gear and flaps. We will learn more once the official investigation results are released. Share your thoughts and let's learn together. Finally, fly safe and Happy New Year 2025.